How can a 2 by 5 inch piece of tape cost you a win in NASCAR and second place? Stand by and I'll tell you all about it. All right, if you are familiar with car racing at all, you know that many forms of racing use a wing such as this for downforce. This is an open wheel, typical 5x5 open wheel sprint car wing. And you see the same type of setup on a mini sprint or on an Indy car, a little different version, different shape, Formula One, and so forth. The way these wings work is when the air particles hit this wing right here, it has a further surface to travel because of this belly. This is essentially, all this is an upside down airplane wing, which an airplane wing is designed to give lift with no drag. Well, this wing here is an upside down airplane wing, which provides downforce with no drag. So when air particles meet this lip here, this belly part is further to the back edge back here. So the air particles has to go further on the bottom, and that further route that it has to take, it decreases the air pressure under there, under this side of the wing, and automatically makes the top of the wing put downforce on the car for better traction. Now, it's real simple there. Let's look at the front of my 88 Buick Regal, and I'll show you an interesting story about that. Okay, for those of you who are familiar with our channel, you know this is the 1988 Buick Regal that we are currently restoring. We've been working on it for about 10 months now. This car was driven on the Winston Cup Series by independent driver Philip Duffy out of Augusta, Georgia. I actually helped assemble this car back in 1988, and we are doing a total restoration. The car was just a rust bucket when we got it, sitting outside for many years. But this is the type nose that was on the car whenever we first assembled it in 1988. Now, this is the nose they went to later on, but we'll get to that in a second. This is the nose that was on the Buick, if you remember back in the beautiful white number 12 that Bobby Allison won Daytona 500 in. This is the nose that was on his Buick. If you look at that shelf right there, that is a great example of how you catch air on the front end. And if you look at how that is actually indexed just a little bit there where the grill goes, this created a bunch of downforce. You want the air to hit the front of that car and go around it or over it, not up under it. That sucked this front end down a lot. After the 88 season, NASCAR, I think it was 88, 89, it could have been 90, but I think it was 89 or 90, they mandated the teams go to this nose right here. I call the bulldozer nose. Now you can compare the lip right here. Look at that shelf right there. Look at that little bitty shelf down there. This front end was more of an advantage compared to, or more of a comparison to what Ford and what Oldsmobile had at the time, and Chevrolet. And they did some wind tunnel testing, and they said, okay guys, we got to change this nose. I just thought that nose looked better, so we're going to build this car like it was originally in 1988. But again, comparing the two noses, you can see that this would create a lot less downforce with this nose here. So that's the difference of two noses from back in the 80s, and how NASCAR took, even back as far as that, how serious they took downforce on front of these cars. Now let's look at our Camaro front end off of our Xfinity car. Okay, we are back with our Xfinity front end. This is Camaro front end. Again, this is not a Winston Cup front end. This is what they are still running in the Xfinity series. But this will give you an idea of what happened, and I'll explain to you when the 11 car and the 18 car went through post-race inspection at Pocono. Now, how in the world did they get through pre-race inspection, you may ask? Well, NASCAR does a lot more detailed post-race inspection. Matter of fact, the winner of the car, by the time it passes post-race tech, the garage area is empty. All the toters are going home, but they tear the car apart. Then they actually even do further research at the R&D center that NASCAR runs and operates to get more additional information. And then that's why sometimes you'll see fines that are put in place on a team like on Wednesday. That's because they found something in the R&D center that wasn't quite up to par with what the NASCAR rules say you can do. However, it wasn't enough to call the race or to change the outcome of the winners we saw at Pocono this last weekend. Now, it's been since 1960 that a race winner was denied that number one position, since 1960. Now, if you remember when Richard Petty won at Charlotte, I forget what year it was, 1980 or so. I think that was his 200th victory. His motor was found to be too big. And you have to forgive me if I think I got my dates right, but if I remember correctly, that was his 200th victory. NASCAR's kind of in the middle. They got King Richard winning his 200th victory. They've celebrated it. That's the one that even Ronald Reagan was there, I think, to help him celebrate. I can't remember. I'm getting old now, but they didn't take that win away. So that's what made this so interesting. But NASCAR has designed this new car, love it or hate it, they're trying to level the playing field. A good example of that is the one car with Trackhouse, how fast they are and their teammates. It has leveled the playing field. Used to, it was Gibbs, it was Hendricks. It's amazing how Trackhouse has come up and is doing better. So NASCAR is taking its front end on these new cars very, very serious. Now, if you look on this car right here, you can see this is a little bitty ridge here. And my understanding, again, I wasn't in a post-race inspection, they took some clear tape and over the ridge of this, on the front end of the car, on the bottom half of the valence, which there's kind of split in two sections, they essentially had the tape over, creating, there was a void behind it. Now, it wasn't but 2 by 5 inches. And the fact that Joe Gibbs had until like Monday afternoon or Tuesday to appeal the decision, they didn't even chance it. So to me, it shows you that they were admitting guilt, I guess. But it's a big deal. M&M, company representative was there. A big deal for Kyle Busch. He finished second in M&M's car, and then for, of course, Denny Hamlin to lose the victory. It was a big deal, but they did not decide to appeal it. Now, when they peeled back the route, which they always do in post-race inspection, that's what exposed this little bitty area that had been altered. Now, think back to how many race cars you've seen come into the pit area through the last few years, and they will take a piece of tape that's half this size, and on the opening for the radiator, they're going to say, okay, they're getting 4 tires, gas, and they're going to put a piece of tape on the grill. And sometimes a piece of tape will be that size right there. They'll stick it in one spot. That is how sensitive these front ends are on these cars. It does not take much. So, just that little bitty bit, and I think it was 2 different areas on the car, made a huge difference. Now, what NASCAR will do, I'm sure, they will go back. They could not prove that it was an advantage, but obviously it was an aero advantage. And I'm sure they're going to put the cars in the wind tunnel when they get back to the R&D area, and they'll go to a wind tunnel I'm not sure if they have their own R&D there or not, but they will test these two areas where they had the tape, and they will probably get some numbers in. They'll compare it to a nose that has not been altered to what they did, and it'll be real interesting if they release that, because it had to be an advantage for them to pull off that big of a fine. I hope this helps you just a little bit and understand a little bit how important air is. It is very important to race cars. This is an expensive piece of tape. The square inches is very expensive. Thanks again for watching. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time on Racecar Fabrication and Restoration. God bless you. You take care.